look at the next section of this tutorial, and I'm just going to go down our page here, and I'm just going to go down to end of year assignments. This is now updated with all assignments, including from before remote learning and now since remote learning. And we're going to now go back to our tutorial instruction document, and I'm going to open up the PDF of the code as well, so that I don't have to type it all. Okay. So let's figure out where we left off in the instruction document and where we left off in the PDF, so we can be ready to copy and paste from that. Okay, so we'd done the beginning of this. We'd set up the main. We'd use this thing called a designer to build a design and then add code. So what we started off with is one Java file, and now we have 4 Java files. 4 different Java files in our project. Okay, started off with this one, which had a main method, which is how we started this course. And now we use this thing, which was a designer, to actually build a visual design using these sort of drag and drop properties window. Again, for those of you who did the grade 10 course, you were used to this. We also added code by switching here between source and design to the vehicle select screen. Some of this code was generated for us. That's what the designer does, which is really cool. And then some of the code we added, like these methods here. And we have a little bit of work still to do on this. So just a reminder, we then added a class called globals, which basically is just a bunch of global variables that went across all of our classes. And then we started working on something called vehicle, but we hadn't finished that yet. So if we go through the instructions here, we did this design, we added the code, although there is a little more code to add here. There's some more code here that we haven't added yet. We'll get to that. Then we did this thing called globals. That's all done. And then we were getting ready to start vehicle. So if I go to now vehicle as a PDF, let's finish up where we left off on this vehicle class. Okay. So as it says, let's start with the comments here. Let's start with getting the comments. Remember a little pro tip, if you're having trouble selecting it from the PDF, double click a word first and then click and drag. Copy. And actually, sorry, I'm just going to grab this part. I'm not going to grab all of it. Paste. Okay. Also, remember the pro tip to auto format the code to clean it up. Select the code first, then Alt-Shift-F will automatically format it. Sometimes though it's not perfect. It might miss something like a space. So I'll put that space in. So this idea of a vehicle, we made a class to represent what a vehicle is. Classes contain properties and methods. That's a way to think of classes. Classes is a collection of methods, which we did a whole unit on, which are actions. Properties are really just variables. They're little variables that can store information or properties about the vehicle, right? Now, those can be simple variables like integers and strings, or they can even be complex things like arrays. Okay? Okay. Another way to think of it is methods are things the class can do, and properties are things about the class. Okay, so now we got more code to put in. Underneath that, okay, we can put in the code here, which includes these properties right here. So which is these global variables inside this class. I can also grab this little comment at the top if I want, or not. That wouldn't be necessary. And I'm going to make sure I go inside of the word public class and in between these two curly brackets. Make sure I'm in between before I paste that code in there. Now I'm going to select it, Alt-Shift-F, and auto format it. Didn't do a great job. As you can see, it missed a crucial space here between the words private and string. And that's really important, that space, because that is code. It's not a comment. So I got to make sure I put that space in there. Now, as far as the comment goes, it also missed a space, and maybe it missed a little bit of that, but that's not that big a deal, okay, for the comments. Also, the word color here is currently generating an error, and that's just because I have to use this light bulb here to import color. Okay, so that's done. These are the properties of the class. Now, again, since I'm doing this as a crash course here in classes, there's a difference between the word private and the word public. When it's made private, it can't be accessed or changed or read outside the class, only inside the class, like a private washroom. But it's still a global variable for this class. Variables that are set to public can be changed outside the class by, like, say, one of our other classes, like one of these other classes that we already have in our program. Okay, so that takes care of the properties of the vehicle class. Now I'm going to take care of the methods. There are two methods, this one and this one. And then there's also a bunch of comments here. So if you want, you can select just from this page, from page 1, or you can also grab from page 2 a little bit if you kind of click and drag all the way down. What I don't want to grab is that last curly bracket. That's already in my class, so I don't need that. So if I copy all this code, go underneath my properties and paste it, I'll get all the code. Then I'm going to select all that code that I just pasted in. That was quite a bit of code to copy at once. Alt-Shift-F, it will automatically format it. So let's just look at the first method, public vehicle string driver. This is what's called a constructor method, the method that's built when a vehicle is created. Okay? Then the next method, it missed a space between public and string again. So I got to make sure I put that space in there. This allows the user to read the driver without changing it. So it's making driver, which was private, a read-only property. And then there's this last little comment here at the bottom that if you want, you can include in yours. And yes, it missed a bunch of spaces. I can fix that really easy. And it's really just an instruction on what we're going to do next. So I actually think this comment is not necessary in your tutorial. It's just an instruction on what you're going to do next. Okay, this comment I feel is better because it does explain a little bit about what's going on, but that other comment was just a set of instructions. So really, when you go to copy and paste from the PDF, you would just need this code from the first page, okay? Not this line and not the stuff below it. I'm just sort of pausing this on the video right now to show you that. That's really all you need to finish this class called vehicle. Make sure you hit save. Make sure you don't have any bugs in your code. Make sure it's all, no errors in your code. And now vehicle is done. Okay. So if we're on the instructions here, it says you finish this class called vehicle. But then it says you should add 3 more Java classes to the project. Name them motorcycle, car, and truck. Okay, so we're going to do that next. We're going to add 3 more classes to this project. And I'll remind you how we're going to do that. We did that the same way we added these other classes this way. You can absolutely either click this button right here to add a class, or you can also go File, New File. But I actually have a third way, which I think is going to be an even easier way to do this. What I want you to do is right-click, okay? And I'm going to type that in. You're going to right-click on the package right here, on this package right here, picture of the package beside your project there, okay? The one that looks like a little present. Once you right click, you can go to New. It should pop up as a menu. And then from there, you should be able to find the words New Java Class. So right click, New Java Class. This just is, I think, a slightly easier way to add a class to your project. Watch as I do it. Right click, New Java Class, Motorcycle. Okay, I'm going to make sure I name it that way: motorcycle, car, and truck. So I'm going to have to do this 3 times. Click Finish. While that's working, I'm going to do it again. Right click, New Java Class, car. Make sure as you're naming these classes that you're using a capital letter at the front, right? Motorcycle with a capital M, car with a capital C, and truck with a capital T. New Java Class, truck. Okay, so now we should have car, motorcycle, and truck, all with capital letters at the front. Okay. Truck. Don't worry about the code I'm deleting. That's something left over from my 40S course. Okay. So here they are: motorcycle, waiting for code; car, waiting for code; and truck. Good news is there actually isn't that much code to put in these 3 things. Okay, so as it says there, you can now go and grab that right off the tutorial. So I'm going to scroll down, or sorry, I'm going to open up, for example, motorcycle. And you can see it's actually not that much code. It really isn't. So what I might actually recommend, a way to do this, a really easy way to do this thing, is to select pretty much all the code right off the PDF. Pretty much grab all of it for a little bit. So you select all the way into the end. The only thing you don't need to grab is this first line and this first comment. Do not grab that. And that's because that is the package, depends on what you've named your package. So that might be causing an error. But what I am grabbing is the comment, and the code. There's really not that much code. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to go to motorcycle. And I'm going to erase the code that was there, except that first line, the package line. And then I'm going to paste in all that code. Since all of it needs formatting, I'm going to select all my code. Although technically I don't need to select that top line, but it's easy just to select it all. And I'm going to do an Alt-Shift-F and auto format all of it. Look for maybe little errors where a space didn't go in. But other than that, it actually worked out pretty well. It pretty much did the right thing and pasted in the code properly. Okay, so what is motorcycle? Motorcycle is a vehicle. So what you're seeing here is something called inheritance. This is kind of a little more of a complicated concept in classes, something that's expanded on in the 40S course. But what it really means is a motorcycle is a vehicle, which kind of makes sense. So what it does is, rather than repeat all the code we put in the vehicle class, it inherits all that code so it can just reuse all that code. Okay, but then it has its own constructor method and then its own code right there where it's setting the speed and the size and the color of that motorcycle based on the stuff we have in our globals class. Anyways, long story short, it is easy to finish that motorcycle class if you follow what I just did right there to get it done. And now we're going to move on to the car class, which is going to go the exact same way. So I'm going to double click car. I'm going to select all the code except for the line that says package and its little comment that goes with it. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to erase all the code except for the line that says package. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to select all my code. I'm going to do Alt-Shift-F to auto format it. I'm going to look for any place where it made a mistake, and it didn't make any mistakes in this one. And now car is done. And I'm going to save. Now I'm going to do truck. I'm going to double click truck. I'm going to select all the code except for the line that says package. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to remove all the code except for the line that says package. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to select it all. I'm going to do an Alt-Shift-F to automatically format it. And that's done. Okay? I'm going to hit save. And here's some good news. This class is done. Car, as is motorcycle, as is truck. And from last week, vehicle's now done. Okay, globals is now done. And the original tutorial file is done. Just vehicle select still needs some work. And then there's one other class we're going to add. A big one, but we're going to add one more class. But vehicle select is now done, or going to be done in a second. But we're going to go back to vehicle select to kind of finish off where we left off. So there we go. Okay. And if you were following the instructions, there's motorcycle, there's car, there's truck. Okay. And then we will be adding another form to the project. We will be going from page 10 to the end of this tutorial. But we got to step back for a second and go back to vehicle select. There's still a little code that we need to add that comes on here on page 3. Okay. It's inside the method called choose. If you see here the method choose, this looks exactly like the way we left off the method choose. But really, it now starts around here. So after the if statement, so we put in this if statement right here, but we hadn't put in this code down here. Okay? This code right here was not in our tutorial. We're going to put it in. So we're going to be putting it in after the if statement, but before the closing of that method, choose. So here's where method choose starts. Here's where method choose ends. We're going to be inserting that code right here. All right, let's do it slowly in chunks. We're going to start with this if statement right here. This if statement says, depending on which vehicle they chose, I will set the vehicle to be either a motorcycle, a car, or a truck. I'm going to copy that code. I'm going to paste it in here. Now I'm going to clean it up by selecting the code I just pasted, Alt-Shift-F. And when it fixed up this if statement, it actually moved a lot of the code around a little bit, and that's fine. You don't have to worry about that. But what I do need to worry about is it missed a space here between new car and new truck. It missed a space. So I better put those spaces in. So that's done. If you want to move your code up so it's on the same line as the if statement, you can, but it's not like that was going to affect your mark in any way. That is not a big deal to move that code up line. If you want yours to look exactly like mine with all the extra spaces and stuff in there, you can do that. But it's not necessary. Okay? It's just an if statement. All right, next thing up, and this is one of the last things we'll be able to do, we're going to use this to dispose of our object. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to format it. And that should be it. I know there's going to be more code. There's still one more line here. But this line here will not work until we build our game screen, which we haven't built yet. So I'm just going to kind of stop here just before the timer runs out, though. I'm going to run it because it should run at this point. We shouldn't have any errors in our code if you've been following the tutorial to this point. There's my timer. You should be able to type in a name and choose one of these three things, and it just disposes of it at that point. It just shuts down the program. Okay? that's where actually you could wrap up this tutorial, is right here. At this point, you could hand in this tutorial. I can't give you 100 on this tutorial if you wrap it up here, but I would give you a solid 70 out of 100 if everything is right and you have all your comments in there properly. And you could be done at this point. To get to the 100 on this tutorial, you'd have to follow what we're going to work on tomorrow. Okay. Also, one other thing with these vehicles and stuff we added, make sure you're changing the names on the comments, like with vehicle, okay, and with car and truck. Today's June the 7th, right? Yeah. Make sure you're changing those to your name. Don't leave them as my name. Make sure you change them and change the date, because I will be looking for that in the marking. Okay, so don't forget to do that, especially if you're wrapping up and handing this in today. And I'm going to talk about how to hand in this tutorial on a different day. Okay, I'm going to turn off the video now.